Alright everybody, back for Music Theory Lesson 10. So after this one, I think we will go back to piano lessons, I think. Even though there is kind of a part 2 of what I'm talking about today. So maybe I'll take a little break from the theory lessons and we'll resume them sometime, hopefully in a couple of weeks. So, here today what we're talking about are different types of intervals. So an interval, in my definition anyway, is the distance between two notes. And that's all an interval really is. So interval is very important in music theory because it helps you examine the distance between notes. A lot of music theory is examining the distance between notes and the movement between notes. So this is a distance between notes kind of thing. And you'll see more and more applications of this as we go along. So just give me a second. I want to enlarge our examples here. There we go. So we got the first one, the major second. Now if you notice this line of music, quote-unquote music, it's really just a bunch of examples. That's why there's a double bar line between each measure, because each of these is a separate example. So you don't want to be reading this from measure to measure, but the measure by itself. So a major second, all that is that, oh, by the way, intervals go by unison, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then octave, and then there are more, like ninth, 10th, 11th, and things like that. But for now, we'll just talk about seconds through octaves. Today, we're actually just talking about seconds through the fifths. And there's actually more to it than that. But for today, this is just kind of an introduction into these intervals. So the first interval we have here is a major second, which simply is a whole step, which we've talked about in previous theory lessons. So if you're not sure about that, you can go back and watch one of those. I'm not exactly sure which one. It was one of the earlier ones. So this first one, from C to D, that's a whole step. But it is also what we call a major second. You can also go down by a major second, but you just got to make sure that it's a whole step, not a half step. Half step's a little bit different. We'll get to that later. So we did the first example, C to D. The left hand has the same thing. So I'm just showing you what it looks like on the treble clef and the bass clef. And then the next one we have from F to G, in that second measure there. That's a major second. And then you have G to A, another major second. And then this next one, the fourth measure in, I want you to take a careful look at, because the second note is C sharp. Now why is that? Well, it's because C sharp is a whole step above B, because there are no black notes between the note B and C. And so to simply move up to C would only be a half step. So you got to move up 2 half steps to make a whole step. That's why it's from B to C sharp. Same thing with the left hand. Just showing you what it looks like in the treble clef and bass clef. And then you've got from A to B after that. That's another whole step. I think you get the idea by now. And this last one is from D to E. That is also a whole step. So go through and take a look at those. Hopefully I'll remember to put those up on the wiki sooner than later. I know sometimes it escapes my mind a little bit, but if you leave a comment, it will remind me, and I'll get to it within the next day or two. So, on to the major third. So there are major and minor intervals. We're just doing major intervals today and perfect intervals. And I'll kind of explain, I guess, what that's about. So, major third is equal to 4 half steps. So this first example here we have from C to E. Well, if you count from C to E, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps away, or 2 whole steps. And that's what we call a major third. Same thing with the left hand. And intervals can be played together, or harmonically, or separately, melodically. And then the next example here, we have from D to F sharp. That's another major third. And the same thing with the left hand. Keep in mind it's from D to F sharp because you need 4 half steps between those two. And then the next one you have from E to G sharp. That's a major third, of course. You have from F to A, another major third. So just go through and practice these, so you just kind of get an idea on what a major third, major second are. You can also think of a major third as, if you remember, I talked about how to construct a major chord some time ago. It was a while ago, I know. But if you remember, a major chord has a root, a third, and a fifth. Well, the major third is the first, between the first two notes in a major triad. Same kind of thing. So go through those and take a look. Let's take a look at what we have next. We have two more intervals to go over today. Kind of a shorter-ish lesson. I'm trying to get a lot of things done. So these are a little bit shorter. I will get them a little longer again, especially the playing examples. They just tend to take a little bit longer. These are just purely explanations. Now let's take a look at what we have next. Okay, so now we have a perfect fourth from C to F. Perfect fourth by definition is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps, or 2.5 whole steps. I like to count half steps. It's a little more reliable. Sometimes, depending on what note you're starting on, to count a certain number of whole steps sometimes works pretty well for me. But at first I would count by half steps. I mean, either one works. If you feel better counting whole steps, 2.5 whole steps, you can do that. So we got the first one from C to F, like I said. Then you got the second one from D to G. So they're the same distance. Remember, 5 half steps. And then you got from F to B flat. And why is it from F to B flat? Well, it's because of the positioning of the notes on the piano. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps to reach that. Same thing, obviously, with the left hand. And then you got from G to C. That's another perfect fourth. Right here, from A to D, A to D. So remember that there's no such thing as a major fourth. They call it perfect fourth, and that has to do with the Pythagorean theorem. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly why they're perfect. It has to do with something about the tuning of instruments. So just know that instead of major fourth and major fifth, you have perfect fourth and perfect fifth. So just keep that in mind. And then, I forget which one we got up to. I did almost all of them. I did do from F to B flat. So the next one, G to C, it's another fourth. And then the last one from A to D, that's a fourth as well. So just go through those and kind of, when you're playing your music, try to figure out the intervals between each note. Now, you want to do this, you can do this two ways. You can do this up and down. Right now, we're talking about from left to right. So we're talking about more melodic intervals rather than harmonic intervals, which are played at the same time. So just look through your music and look from left to right and figure out what the distance between each of the intervals is, and that'll give you a little practice. And then obviously check using the keyboard. Alright, on to our last one for today. We have a perfect fifth. So it's the same thing as when I said the fifth in the C major triad. The fifth is a perfect fifth. At least in the C major triad it is. Alright, so by definition that is 7 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or 3.5 whole steps, which is kind of hard to imagine. Here's 1 whole step, here's 2 whole steps, here's 3 whole steps, and there's 3.5. So like I said, sometimes it's a little easier to do half steps than whole steps, for me anyway. So the first one you have from C to G, same thing with the left hand. And then you have from D to A. Remember that you need 7 half steps between the first note and the second note. And then the next one you have from F to C, same thing with the left hand. And then G to D. And the next one, A to E. The right and left hand, they are, so the intervals are obviously the same between the right hand and the left hand. Just remember that we're reading from left to right. You can read up and down too, but for this example, don't do that because the intervals will always be an octave. So what I mean by reading up and down is, like, say we have this first example here for perfect fifth. Well, If you read it up and down, you have from C to C. Well, that's an octave. So that's an interval by itself. But right now, to kind of show you these intervals, we're doing from left to right. So you take the left note versus the right note. And remember, you're not doing between measures. You're doing individual measures for this example. You can do between measures, though, when you read music and figure out the distance between the measures. But this is just for like teaching purposes. And then the last one, at least I think we're up to that last example there for perfect fifth. You have B to F sharp. Now, why is there F sharp? Well, hopefully you said because you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps between first note and second note. Obviously the same thing with the left hand. So there you go. Quick recap, we did major second, major third, perfect fourth, and perfect fifth. And remember that a major second is a half step, a major third is 4 half steps, perfect fourth is 5 half steps, and a perfect fifth is 7 half steps, or however 3.5 whole steps or whatever it is. Like I said, I'd go by half steps for that. So you may be saying, well, maybe you're not saying, but I'm saying. So what happens if you have the exact same note? So you have a C, and then you have a C again. Well, what kind of interval is that? Because there's no real distance between the notes. Well, that no distance we call a unison. So they are the exact same note. They are in the exact same octave, and that is called a perfect unison. So not major unison, perfect unison. Again, it has to do with the tuning of instruments throughout time. Not 100. I remember learning it a while ago exactly why it's called perfect, but I can't quite remember. It's more of a mathematical explanation than a musical one. So if you want to look that up, you can do that. Hopefully, I'll remember to look that up and try to piece together some sort of musical explanation for that for you. So there you go. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you for the next lesson. Thank you. Hey there, did you like the video? Did you learn something? Well, click that subscribe button below to get regular updates of videos and announcements from my YouTube channel. Also, remember to click that like button if you liked the video. Also, you can follow me on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and more. I'll leave the links to those in the description below. Also, spread the love and share these videos with your friends. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you for the next lesson. Thank you.